So it's a straightforward decision that the bump stock doesn't turn the gun into a machine gun under the law. Secondly, there was a decision just issued today about gun stocks. And I'm not much of, I'm a Second Amendment person, but I'm not much of a big gun person. I don't use them. I'm just not familiar with their operations the way some of my friends and colleagues are, who A, are gun enthusiasts, or B, are really into the issue as a matter of policy. As a conservative, though, I recognize just because I don't use something a lot, it doesn't make it wrong and illegal if someone else is using it, meaning guns. And so this gun stock bill or ban was instituted by the ATF after the Las Vegas shooting. Evidently that shooter, which there are all sorts of questions about that shooting and the craziness around that, but that's another matter, had bump stocks. And the bump stock the bump stocks the shooter had allowed him to evidently, or so it's been alleged, to kill and shoot many more bullets and kill and harm more people than he otherwise would have had the opportunity to do if he was just using a regular gun, a semi-automatic gun. And so the ATF changed their position that bump stocks are legal, and they banned them through regulation. And it was under the Trump administration. It was a big controversy because Second Amendment advocates said that's not right. You can't do it. And the big debate is the federal law that outlaws machine guns, which are automatic fire weapons, as you may know, is that cover bump stocks. And the way a bump stock works is that it essentially makes it easier. My understanding is, especially after reading the decision today by Justice Thomas, the majority opinion decision, it just makes it easier to fire the weapon continuously, but no more. But it still requires an individual trigger action to fire the weapon. A machine gun, you pull the trigger and it just fires automatically until you let go of the trigger. The bump stock requires additional action in order for the bullet to be ejected. So it's not a machine gun. It's a separate trigger action. Simple. And Justice Alito said if you don't like this go-around to make it easier to fire the weapon as best you can tell, then go to Congress and get them to change the law. And they didn't do that. So it's a straightforward decision that the bump stock doesn't turn the gun into a machine gun under the law. Now, the left is, as I call it, the DC Borg outrage at Justice Thomas's 6-3 opinion. Maybe we can draw up the opinion. It might be worth showing some of those pages. Go to the Supreme Court website, guys. Go to the opinion section. That a bump stock equipped gun is not a machine gun under federal law. A bump stock does not, and this is a quote for Justice Thomas's decision I threw in there. A bump stock does not convert a semi-automatic rifle into a machine gun any more than a shooter with a lightning-fast trigger finger does. Meaning a bump stock is like having someone who can shoot the gun real fast by pulling the trigger, boom, 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 like that. Now, I'm probably mangling the description of a gun stock, right, or a bump stock. I keep on probably calling it a gun stock repeatedly, right? So the bump stock is, it allows you, you pull the trigger, recoil, and the bump stock converts the energy into another firing, and it's basically causes a trigger to be pulled again. And it's kind of like a pump action shotgun, where you pull the trigger and you pump the gun, boom, 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 and the trigger isn't pulled again. It's the pump action that causes the next firing, and that's not considered to be a machine gun. So if you go down, you can see he describes it a little bit. Let's go down. And I encourage you to read these Supreme Court decisions. And there were other decisions that were interesting. They may not have been as interesting broadly to an audience, but they're always educational. So if you're interested in how the Supreme Court operates and the issues they face, it's worth going and looking at the decisions. They're written in a way that I'm not a lawyer, I understand them, and to the degree I'm not aware of the specific law, legal battles and other background, it doesn't necessarily take away from the impact of the argument and how the different courts, the different justices on the court operate and respond to the legal issues before them. Because, sometimes the liberals and conservatives agree and disagree in areas that you might be surprised about. And this is from the syllabus. With a machine gun, a shooter can fire multiple times or even continuously by engaging the trigger only once. This capability distinguishes a machine gun from a semi-automatic firearm. With a semi-automatic firearm, the shooter can fire only one time by engaging the trigger. Using a technique called bump firing, shooters can fire semi-automatic firearms at rates approaching those of some machine guns. A shooter who bump fires a rifle uses the firearm's recoil to help rapidly manipulate the trigger. Although bump firing does not require any additional equipment, a bump stock is an accessory designed to make the technique easier. A bump stock does not alter the basic mechanics of bump firing, and the trigger still must be released and re-engaged to fire each additional shot. So essentially, instead of you pulling your finger back to engage the trigger, the action of the bump stock does it for you. But the trigger is engaged again, even though you're not doing the pulling. And that's the distinction. And it may seem like a small distinction, but it's not a machine gun. Machine guns operate differently. And if we go down further, this is why I encourage you to look at the decision. Justice Thomas inserts material from, here it is. And this is what the holding is. ATF exceeded its statutory authority by issuing a rule that classifies a bump stock as a machine gun. A semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock is not a machine gun because it can't fire more than one shot by a single function of a trigger. And even if it could, it would not do so automatically. A semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock does not fire more than one shot by a single function of the trigger. The phrase function of the trigger refers to the mode of action by which the trigger activates the firing mechanism. No one disputes that a semi-automatic rifle without a bump stock is not a machine gun because the shooter must release and reset the trigger between every shot. And any subsequent shot fired after the trigger has been released and reset is the result of a separate and distinct function of the trigger. Nothing changes when the gun's equipped with a bump stock. So, I hope that point's clear. And so if you go down, we'll see some pictures that Justice Thomas inserted into his opinion, describing how a gun operates. I just wish everyone would look at it, including those who want to destroy our Second Amendment and 14th Amendment rights. There's the relevant there's the trigger, the hammer, the simple lever that moves back and forth. And if you go down further, Justice Alito, this is simple stuff. And I don't understand what the debate is. And Justice Alito has kind of this is the analysis that Justice Alito goes through. Let's go down to Justice Alito's opinion. It's just a few pages down. Of course, the left is outraged, right? Because they think they should be able to do anything they want without any constitutional check. And if you're going to change the rules, and if you're going to change the law, or if you want to change the law, you can't do it through regulatory fiat. And this was something the Trump administration did. And Justice Alito said there's simply no other way to read the language. There can be little doubt that the Congress has enacted the law, that the Congress that enacted the law would not have seen any material difference between a machine gun and a semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock. But the statutory text is clear and we must follow it. And he says at the end, he says, but the event that they're concerned about, the Las Vegas shooting, highlights the need to amend a law, not itself does it change the law's meaning. There's a simple remedy for the disparate treatment of bump stocks and machine guns. Congress can amend the law, and perhaps would have done so already if ATF had not stuck with its early interpretation, which was that bump stocks are legal under the law. Now that the situation is clear, Congress can act. So if this is the crisis the left and some conservatives and Republicans think it is, well, they're going to change the law. Is it going to be constitutional then? I don't know. It depends what they say. Usually they go beyond the bounds imposed by the Constitution whenever they talk about guns, so we'll see what happens. But the left has been accelerating and increasing its attacks on Alito and Thomas these past few days. They're not slowing down. It's insane. They hate Justice Thomas because he's black and a conservative. It's race-based. Alito is a leading conservative figure on the court. He wrote the abortion decision that allows states to protect human beings in the womb finally. So the pressure is continuing, and we haven't had the decisions issued by the court yet about presidential immunity, which could help Trump, and about the overreach that the Justice Department is engaged in to misapply a law to try to jail January 6 defendants. And they're worried about that. And the way they deal with the Supreme Court that issues decisions they don't like is by undermining and smearing the justices writing the decisions. And generally undermining the court so they can rig the court either by forcing the recusal of people through improper means or otherwise attacking the court and maybe getting people to maybe change their decision because they don't want to get attacked anymore. And their end goal is to essentially eliminate the court as a check on their power by wildly expanding it and turning it into a purely political institution like Congress. So that's what we face. As you read the Supreme Court decisions, I encourage you, we'll put the links to the Supreme Court abortion and gun rights decision below on the abortion pill and the bump stock case. And I said, we've got these other big decisions upcoming. Keep that in the back of your mind. The left wanted to rig those decisions one way or the other and think, well, were these decisions rigged at all? And if they weren't, and they're decisions you think are great and are pro-Constitution, I encourage you to understand that we have to fight back against these attacks on the court. And that's what we try to do with our educational and oversight activities at Judicial Watch. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.